Your Wife or Me. Date: Saturday, May 18, 2025. Chapter 1. The Serpent in the Garden. Kamal lived a life carved from gold. At 28, he resided in a mansion that overlooked the city, a sprawling monument to the inherited wealth that flowed through his veins like an endless river. His wife, Kerry, a stunning 27-year-old with a sharp wit and sharper fashion sense, was another jewel in his meticulously curated existence. Yet, beneath the polished surface of his perfect life, a strange, unsettling desire had begun to fester, an obsession with his friend, Idoo. Idoo, 25, was Kamal's antithesis. He lived in a modest apartment, his pockets often shallower than his ambition. He was married to Efe, a vibrant 22-year-old whose laughter could fill any room. It was their intertwined lives, their unpretentious happiness, that drew Kamal like a moth to a flame. Not in envy, not exactly. More like a twisted fascination. Kamal had known Idoo for years, a friendship born in college, sustained by a casual camaraderie that belied the chasm in their fortunes. But lately, Kamal found himself watching Idoo, not Efe, when they were together. He admired Idoo's resilience, his easy charm, his unwavering loyalty to his wife. A thought, unsettling and foreign, began to bloom in Kamal's mind: what if Idoo were mine? He dismissed it at first, attributing it to boredom, to the ennui of having everything. But the thought persisted, gaining traction. Kamal, a man who had always been unequivocally heterosexual, found himself grappling with a confusing magnetism towards his male friend. He didn't understand it, couldn't articulate it, but it was there, a quiet hum beneath the surface of his consciousness. Then, a plan, insidious and cruel, began to form. If Idoo was single, if he were unburdened by marital ties, wouldn't he be more available? More open to a different kind of partnership? Kamal didn't yet acknowledge the full implications of this different kind of partnership. His mind, still stubbornly straight, found a workaround, a perverse logic. He would make Idoo available. The opportunity presented itself on a sweltering afternoon in late May. Kerry was away on a weekend spa retreat with her friends. Kamal, meticulously dressed as ever, called Efe. Efe, dear, he purred, his voice laced with practiced charm. Kerry's out of town, and I'm utterly bored. Would you mind keeping me company for a bit? I've got some new art pieces I'd love your opinion on. Efe, innocent and unsuspecting, agreed. She respected Kamal, admired his success. She thought nothing of visiting a friend's husband, especially one who was often so kind and jovial when Idoo was around. She arrived, her bright dress a splash of color against the muted opulence of Kamal's living room. He offered her champagne, led her through rooms filled with art she couldn't afford to dream of. The conversation flowed easily at first, light and friendly. But Kamal's gaze was different today, something possessive simmering beneath the surface. As the afternoon wore on, the champagne flowed, and the air in the vast house grew heavy with an unspoken tension. Kamal steered the conversation, subtly, towards Idoo, towards the intricacies of marriage, towards unspoken desires. He watched Efe, observed the slight flush on her cheeks, the way her eyes lingered on him when he spoke of his vast world. Then, he moved closer, a hand on her arm, a whisper in her ear. Efe, caught off guard, found herself in a situation she hadn't anticipated. It was confusing, intoxicating even, the attention from a man like Kamal. And before she truly understood what was happening, Kamal had led her to his master bedroom, the heavy silk drapes drawn, the air cool and hushed. The act was quick, almost clinical on Kamal's part. As Efe lay beside him, a mix of shame and bewilderment settling over her, Kamal felt a strange jolt. A moment of confusion, then a clarity that shook him to his core. This felt wrong, he muttered, not to Efe, but to the opulent ceiling. The words were not an apology, but a personal revelation. It felt wrong with Efe. He had sought to destroy Idoo's marriage, convinced that by doing so, he would make Idoo accessible. But in the act itself, It wasn't the thrill of forbidden fruit that hit him, but something far more profound. It was the realization that he didn't want Effie. He wanted Idoho. And in that moment, the previously suppressed urges burst forth. Kamal, who had only ever been attracted to women, understood. He was bisexual, and his desire for Idoho was not a fleeting fancy, but a potent, undeniable force. He watched Effie dress, her movements stiff, her face pale. He felt no remorse for her, only a grim satisfaction that the first domino had fallen. His plan, though born of a misunderstanding of his own desires, was in motion. I will ruin Idoho's marriage, he thought, and then he will be mine. The path ahead was dark, but to Kamal, it was the only way to get what he now truly, desperately wanted. Chapter 2. Seeds of Ruin. Effie carried the secret like a lead weight in her stomach. Every touch from Idoho, every shared laugh, felt like a betrayal. The guilt gnawed at her, compounded by a creeping fear of Kamal. He hadn't threatened her, not explicitly, but the power he wielded, the way he looked at her with an unnerving intensity, made her feel trapped. A few weeks after the affair, the tension in Idoho and Effie's home became unbearable. Idoho, sensitive and perceptive, noticed Effie's quietness, the way she flinched when he touched her, the sudden hollowness in her eyes. He pressed her gently at first, then more insistently. One evening, after a particularly strained dinner, it all came tumbling out. Effie, tears streaming down her face, confessed everything. The visit to Kamal's house, the champagne, the seduction, the sex. She hated herself, hated the weakness that had led her there. Idoho listened, his face hardening with each word. First disbelief, then a searing pain, followed by a cold, righteous fury. Kamal, his friend, the man he had admired. To do this to him, to his wife. It was an unforgivable treachery. But more than that, it was the specific target, Effie. It felt deliberate, a calculated strike. Get out, Idoho said, his voice dangerously low, his eyes fixed on some point beyond Effie, beyond the room. I can't look at you right now. Get out. Effie, weeping, packed a small bag and left. The next day, the divorce papers were filed. Idoho's marriage, once a beacon of his simple happiness, lay in ruins, shattered by Kamal's calculated intervention. For a time, Idoho retreated, a wounded animal licking its wounds. He stopped seeing Kamal, avoided his calls, his texts. But the loneliness eventually pressed in. His friends urged him to move on, to heal. And slowly, cautiously, he did. 6 months later, he met Shola. She was 24, with a mischievous smile and a kind heart that patiently chipped away at Idoho's hardened shell. Shola understood his past hurt, listened without judgment, and slowly, Idoho found himself laughing again, feeling a lightness he thought he'd lost forever. Their relationship blossomed, a quiet, gentle love. Kamal, meanwhile, had been observing from a distance. He had heard about the divorce, a grim satisfaction settling over him. He had known Idoho would eventually find someone new, but he had underestimated the speed of it, and the genuine happiness Shola brought. The sight of Idoho's renewed joy, especially with a woman, reignited the twisted obsession. Idoho wasn't single, not truly, not available for him. One crisp afternoon, Kamal happened to be driving past Idoho's apartment building. He saw her, Shola. Her laughter carried on the wind as she fumbled with her keys, a bag of groceries clutched in her arms. She was vibrant, beautiful, and heading straight into Idoho's life. Kamal's jaw tightened. This couldn't stand. He pulled over, waited until she was almost at the door. Shola, he called, his voice easy, familiar. Shola turned, surprised. Kamal, hello. She knew him as Idoho's wealthy friend, the one who had mysteriously fallen out of touch. Just saw you heading in, Kamal said, stepping out of his car, radiating charm. Listen, I just got back from a trip, brought back some incredible artisanal chocolates. I know Idoho loves them. Would you mind coming by for a minute to pick 'em up? A little housewarming gift, perhaps. For your new life together. He smiled, a practiced, disarming smile that belied the darkness in his eyes. Shola hesitated. Oh. That's so kind, Kamal. But I really should get these groceries in. Nonsense. He waved a dismissive hand. It'll just take a minute. And you wouldn't want those chocolates melting, would you? His insistence, coupled with the genuine offer, or so it seemed, swayed her. She liked Kamal. He was always so grand and generous. She followed him to his car, then, after a brief drive, into the opulent foyer of his mansion. The moment the front door clicked shut behind them, a chill went down Shola's spine. The air in Kamal's house suddenly felt different, heavier. He led her to a sitting room, offered her a drink. Make yourself comfortable, he said, his voice losing some of its practiced warmth, an edge creeping in. I'll just fetch those chocolates. He returned not with chocolates, but with a small, sleek digital camera. Shola looked at him, confused. Shola, Kamal began, his voice low, no longer friendly. You're a beautiful woman, and you're with Idoo. You see, Idoo, he has a way of attracting people. And I need to ensure he makes the right choices. Shola's heart began to pound. What are you talking about, Kamal? I'm talking about you, Shola, he said, stepping closer. I'm talking about how you're going to take off your clothes. Every single stitch. And I'm going to record it. Her eyes widened in horror. No, I won't. What kind of sick game is this? Kamal's smile vanished. It's not a game, Shola. It's a necessary step. If you refuse, I can make your life, and Idoo's, very, very unpleasant. Believe me, I have the means. He gestured vaguely around the mansion. Now, I suggest you cooperate. It'll be quicker, and cleaner. Terror seized her. She looked at his cold, unyielding face, the camera already raised. Trapped, alone in his mansion, she saw no escape. Trembling, tears blurring her vision, Shola slowly, humiliatingly, began to undress. Kamal filmed every moment, his expression unreadable, a cold calculation in his eyes. Later that evening, after he had sent Shola away with a chilling warning, Idoo's phone buzzed. It was an anonymous message. He opened it, and his blood ran cold. It was the video. Shola, naked, vulnerable, humiliated. And in the background, unmistakably, Kamal's voice. Idoo confronted Shola immediately, his voice hoarse with despair and rage. Shola, still reeling from the ordeal, confessed everything Kamal had done, the threat, the blackmail. Her shame was palpable, her fear equally so. Idoo looked at her, then at the video. He knew it wasn't her fault, not truly. But the image, the violation, was burned into his mind. And the source of it. Kamal. Again. I can't, Idoo whispered, his voice cracking. I can't do this, Shola. Not with this hanging over us. I need space. I need to figure this out. Shola understood. The video, a sword hanging over their heads, had effectively poisoned everything. With a heavy heart, she left, a second relationship ruined, directly or indirectly, by Kamal's twisted machinations. Idoo was left alone once more, his life a wreckage around him. The pain was beyond anything he had felt with Efe. This was deliberate, malicious. Kamal wasn't just a friend who betrayed him. He was an enemy, systematically dismantling his life. His grief curdled into a dark, unyielding hatred. He would make Kamal pay. Chapter 3. Desperate Measures. Idoo walked the lonely streets of his neighborhood, the cold night air doing little to cool the inferno raging within him. 2 women, 2 relationships, shattered. Not by chance, not by his own failings, but by Kamal. The wealthy man's shadow stretched long and dark over his life, systematically destroying every attempt at happiness. He remembered Kamal's early attempts to befriend him after the Efe debacle. Calls he ignored, invitations he declined. Now he understood. Kamal wasn't trying to mend their friendship. He was circling, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. The realization settled in him, cold and hard, Kamal would never stop. As long as Idoo sought happiness with another woman, Kamal would find a way to ruin it. There was only one solution. A dark, terrifying, but increasingly necessary one. He needed Kamal gone. Idoo had no connections, no experience with the underworld. He went online, searching in the darkest corners of the internet, using burner phones and encrypted messaging apps. He found a name, Mario. Mario, age 32, presented himself as a seasoned professional, a man who could handle delicate situations. His fee was exorbitant, but Idoo, desperate, scraped together every penny he had, borrowing from family, selling what little assets he possessed. They met in a seedy bar, Mario a hulking figure with shifty eyes and a nervous tic. He spoke in clipped sentences, promising efficiency and discretion. Idoo, blinded by fury, ignored the subtle signs of amateurism. Kamal, Idoo said, sliding a photo across the table. I want him gone, permanently. Mario nodded, took the money, and disappeared into the night. The waiting was excruciating. Idoo spent his days staring at his phone, waiting for the call, the confirmation. Days turned into a week, then 2. Still nothing. Frustration began to gnaw at him. Finally, Mario called. Boss, there was a complication. What complication? Idoo snarled. I had him. Perfect shot. But then I sneezed. And I hit myself in the foot. Bullet ricocheted. Had to make a quick exit. Boss. Idoo stared at the phone in disbelief. You shot yourself. Occupational hazard. Boss. But I'll get him next time. I promise. Idoo ended the call, shaking his head. This was a joke. A sick, twisted joke. But he had paid too much to give up. Another week passed. Mario called again, his voice sheepish. Boss, so, I had him again. At his gym. I was on the roof, excellent vantage point. But then, a pigeon flew into my sideline. Messed up the shot. Missed him by a mile. Hit a parked car. A pigeon. Idoo roared. You're telling me a pigeon stopped you? Nature, boss. Unpredictable. Idoo slammed the phone down. Mario was not just incompetent. He was a disaster. It was clear. Kamal was either the luckiest man alive, or Mario was the worst hitman in the history of assassination. Idoo had wasted his money, his time, his last shred of hope on this buffoon. He paced his small apartment, his mind racing. He had tried the direct approach, and it had failed spectacularly. Killing Kamal was out, but he still needed to hurt him, to make him feel the same pain, the same loss. And if he couldn't take Kamal's life, he would take something else. Something equally precious. His wife. A new plan began to form, audacious and risky, but brilliantly simple. It required a unique asset, someone only he possessed. His twin brother, Warren. Warren, 25, was Idoo's mirror image in appearance, but his opposite in life. Where Idoo was traditionally masculine and attracted to women, Warren was openly gay, flamboyant, and unashamedly himself. They shared a bond that transcended mere brotherhood. Idoo called Warren, his voice strained. Warren, I need your help. A big favor. It's crazy, but it's the only way. He explained everything. Kamal's obsession, the ruined marriages, the failed hitman. Then he laid out his new plan. Warren listened, his expression shifting from shock to concern to a slow, thoughtful smile. So, you want me to pretend to be you, and go on dates with the man who systematically destroyed your life. And Kamal thinks I'm you, but I'm actually me, the gay twin. Yes, Idoo practically shouted, and while you're distracting him, I'll be with Kerry, his wife. Warren raised an eyebrow, a glint of mischief in his eyes. That's elaborate, and a little messed up, even for Kamal. But you're sure about this? He's a dangerous man, Idoo. I'm desperate, Warren. He's taken everything from me. I need to take something from him. Warren paused, considering. He wasn't entirely sure about Kamal, didn't want to get involved in Idoo's vendetta, but his brother's pain was palpable. And the idea itself, the sheer audacity of it, held a strange appeal. "All right," Warren finally said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Let's give Kamal a taste of his own medicine. For you, brother, for you." Chapter 4. A Daring Switch. The plan was set. Idoo tidied his modest apartment, setting the stage for the unsuspecting Kamal. He briefed Warren again, going over every detail of his own mannerisms, quirks, and the subtle ways he interacted with Kamal. It was a bizarre acting lesson, but Warren, despite his initial apprehension, was a quick study. His natural charm and intelligence would carry the rest. "Remember," Idoo stressed, "Kamal thinks he's been chasing me this whole time. He thinks he turned bisexual because of me, or for me. Play into that. Make him believe this is finally his chance. But don't lead him on too much physically, not yet. You need to build the relationship first." Warren nodded, winking. "Consider it done. I'll make him fall for Idoo so hard, he won't know what hit him." The critical first step was getting Kamal to Idoo's place. Idoo sent a carefully worded text. "Kamal, I know we've had our issues. And I know you probably think I hate you. But I've been doing a lot of thinking. Maybe what you did, the things you showed me, maybe they opened my eyes to something. Can you come over? I think we need to talk. Just us." Kamal responded almost immediately, a mixture of surprise and triumph in his reply. "Idoo, I'd like that very much. I'll be there right away." He arrived, his tailored suit impeccable, an expectant gleam in his eyes. Warren, sitting casually on the small sofa, looked up as the door opened, mirroring Idoo's usual relaxed posture. "Kamal," Warren said, a slight tremor in his voice, perfectly mimicking Idoo's internal struggle. "Thanks for coming." Kamal's gaze swept over him, a hungry intensity in his eyes. "Idoo, I'm glad you called. I know I've caused you pain. But I also hope you understand why." Warren nodded slowly, feigning deep thought. "I think I'm starting to. Truth is, Kamal," he leaned forward, dropping his voice conspiratorially, "after everything, after Fa, after Shola. A part of me, a very confusing part, started to wonder if perhaps you were right. About me. About us." He even managed to blush slightly, a skill Warren had perfected in high school. Kamal's eyes lit up. This was it, the moment he had engineered, slowly, painfully, for so long. "Idoo," he breathed, a genuine softness in his voice, "are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I think." Warren paused, looking away, then back. "I think I want to go out on a date with you, Kamal." Kamal was stunned. He had expected anger, resistance, a slow, arduous seduction. Not this direct, almost vulnerable invitation. His heart pounded with triumph. "A date," Kamal repeated, a wide smile spreading across his face. "Yes, Idoo, yes, I would love that. More than anything." They discussed the details, Kamal barely containing his excitement. Warren, playing the role of a man tentatively exploring new territory, agreed to a quiet dinner first, then maybe a few drinks. He skillfully avoided any physical contact, maintaining Kamal's belief that Idoo was still grappling with his newfound feelings. Meanwhile, Idoo, having slipped out the back door moments before Kamal's arrival, was on his way to Kamal's mansion. Kerry was expected home in a few hours. He had secured a key from Kerry's cleaning lady, a woman he had charmed during his early visits to Kamal's house. He felt a grim satisfaction as he passed through the wrought iron gates. This was a different kind of infiltration, a more personal one. Chapter 5. The Gambit Plays Out. The dates began. Kamal, utterly convinced that Warren was Idoo, was in his element. He poured all his charm, all his wealth, all his newly acknowledged bisexual ardor into wooing the man he had pursued so relentlessly. Their first date was at an exclusive, dimly lit restaurant known for its privacy and exquisite cuisine. Kamal spoke of his life, his dreams, even, tentatively, of his journey into bisexuality, presenting it as a direct result of his profound feelings for Hideo. Warren listened, offering sympathetic glances, asking probing questions that made Kamal feel deeply understood. He feigned a shy reluctance to hold hands, explaining that this was all so new to him, feeding Kamal's narrative of his own transformative influence. "I can't believe this is happening, Hideo," Kamal confessed over a glass of vintage wine. "For so long, I believed you were the one. I didn't know how to reach you." "You found a way," Warren murmured, a subtle irony in his tone that Kamal entirely missed. They went on several more dates. Warren, guided by Hideo's instructions and his own intuitive understanding of human nature, slowly allowed Kamal closer, a subtle touch on the arm, a prolonged gaze. He led Kamal to gay bars and parties, places Kamal had only recently started exploring. Kamal, surrounded by vibrant, accepting queer communities, felt a sense of belonging he hadn't known he craved. He introduced Hideo to his new friends, proudly presenting his friend as his new partner, a testament to his own awakening. Warren enjoyed it more than he expected. He was naturally outgoing, and Kamal, when he wasn't being a manipulative villain, was genuinely charming, witty, and surprisingly open about his feelings for Hideo. Warren found himself almost liking Kamal, a strange, disconcerting development in their elaborate charade. He even felt a pang of something akin to pity for Kamal's genuine belief that he finally had the man he desired. While Kamal was out with Hideo, lost in a world of new romance and self-discovery, Hideo was executing the second, equally crucial, part of the plan. He had timed it perfectly. Kamal often had late nights out when Kerry was occupied with her own social engagements or business trips. Hideo accessed Kamal's mansion using the spare key. The house, usually bustling with domestic staff, was quiet. He found Kerry in her study, immersed in paperwork. She looked up, startled, as he walked in. "Hideo," she said, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Kerry," Hideo began, his voice calm, yet carrying an undercurrent of something she couldn't quite place. "We need to talk. About your husband. About me. And about what he's done." He laid it all out. The affair with Efe, the video of Shola, the systematic destruction of his relationships, the chilling revelation of Kamal's twisted desire to have him, Hideo, as a partner. Kerry listened, her face draining of color, then contorting in a mask of shock and disbelief. "Kamal wouldn't," she whispered, shaking her head. "He loves me. He wouldn't do something so monstrous." "He did, Kerry," Hideo insisted, his eyes hard. "He did, and he's out right now, with my twin brother, thinking he's with me, exploring his new relationship. Just like he did with Efe. Just like he tried to do with Shola." He showed her the video of Shola, not for her to judge Shola, but for her to grasp the depths of Kamal's depravity. He showed her the messages from Kamal to him, hinting at deeper desires, at making Hideo his partner. Kerry watched, her mind reeling, her world crumbling around her. "He targeted Efe to break us," Hideo continued, his voice low, "because he wanted me single. He blackmailed Shola because I moved on. He's obsessed, Kerry, and what he's doing to you, to me, to everyone around him, is a sick game." The realization hit Kerry with the force of a physical blow. The distant husband, the increasingly frequent, late meetings, the subtle shifts in his personality. It all made a horrifying kind of sense. The man she thought she knew, the man she had loved, was a stranger. A predator. The anger, cold and sharp, began to replace the shock. "How could he?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "How could he do this?" Hideo stepped closer, placing a hand on her arm. "He sees us as pawns, Kerry. But we're not. We deserve better. We deserve to be happy, even if it's not with the people we thought we'd be with." In the quiet aftermath of the revelation, a strange, unsettling connection formed between them. Two victims of the same man, united in their betrayal. Their conversation deepened, their shared hurt creating an unexpected intimacy. They spoke for hours, pouring out their frustrations, their loneliness, their dreams of a life free from Kamal's shadow. And as the night wore on, as the city lights twinkled outside the panoramic windows of Kamal's bedroom, one shared solace led to another. A need for comfort, for understanding, for a human touch that wasn't tainted by lies. Idoho found himself holding Kerry, and soon, their shared sorrow turned into something more, a raw, desperate act of defiance against the man who had wronged them both. Chapter 6. The Unveiling. Kamal dropped Warren off at Idoho's apartment, a triumphant smile plastered on his face. He had spent the evening at a vibrant gay club, dancing with Idoho, feeling an exhilarating sense of freedom and acceptance. He finally had Idoho, the man he had unknowingly coveted for so long. The future stretched out, bright and full of possibility. He whistled as he unlocked the front door of his mansion. The house was quiet, the staff long gone. He headed straight for his master bedroom, eager for the comfort of his own bed, and perhaps, a quiet moment of reflection on his incredible fortune. He pushed open the bedroom door. The sight that greeted him froze him mid-step. On his bed, unmistakably, was Idoho. And wrapped around him, tangled in the silk sheets, was Kerry. His wife. Kamal's world tilted. The air left his lungs in a silent gasp. A wave of dizziness washed over him. It was a mirror image, a cruel echo of that day with Efe, but infinitely more jarring, more personal. Deja vu, yes, but twisted, malignant. What is this? Kamal choked out, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. His triumphant smile had contorted into a mask of pure shock and betrayal. His vision blurred. Idoho sat up, calmly pulling the sheet higher over Kerry, whose eyes were wide with a mix of defiance and exhaustion. He looked at Kamal, not with anger, but with a cold, almost detached satisfaction. "Hello, Kamal," Idoho said, his voice level. "Surprise." Kamal staggered backward, hitting the doorframe. "Idoho, you, but I just dropped you off. I thought you were gay. We just spent the whole night together." The words tumbled out, laced with hurt, confusion, and a profound sense of humiliation. You hurt my feelings, Idoho. I thought this was real." Idoho chuckled, a short, bitter sound. "Real? You talk about real, Kamal. You, who systematically destroyed my relationships. You, who blackmailed Shola. You, who slept with my wife. You, who thought you could just take my life apart and rebuild it for your own twisted desires." Kamal stared, his mind struggling to process the accusations, the impossible scene before him. "I'm not gay, Kamal," Idoho said, finally rising from the bed, wrapping a robe around himself. "My twin brother is. Warren, you just spent the last few weeks dating him." Kamal's jaw dropped. "Your twin brother, Warren." The name unfamiliar, yet suddenly making a horrifying kind of sense. The slight differences he dismissed as Idoho's new phase, the sometimes too eager enthusiasm. It was all a lie. A calculated, devastating lie. He had been played by the very man he had sought to manipulate. "Yes, Warren," Idoho confirmed, a grim smile on his face. "He's an excellent actor, isn't he? We swapped positions. While you were out exploring your newfound bisexuality with him, I was here. With your wife." Kerry, now fully dressed, emerged from behind Idoho, her face set. "He told me everything, Kamal. About Efe, about Shola, about your obsession. It's over, all of it." Kamal looked from Idoho to Kerry, then back. His empire, built on deceit and manipulation, was crumbling around him. The man he thought he had won, the woman he had neglected, both now stood against him, united by his own treachery. The image of the two of them, in his bed, was a wound that would never heal. Without another word, Kamal turned and fled. He stumbled out of the house, got into his car, and drove. He drove aimlessly at first, the city lights a blur. He needed answers. He needed to understand. He drove to Ido's apartment. He pulled up to the familiar building, his heart pounding. The porch light was on. As he walked up to the door, it opened. Warren stood there, a curious, almost sympathetic look on his face. Kamal stared. The resemblance was uncanny, but in this light, knowing what he knew, the subtle differences were stark. The way Warren held himself, the knowing glint in his eye, the very essence of him. It was Ido, but it wasn't. You. Kamal breathed, the word a mix of accusation and bewildered recognition. It's you, he told me. Kamal, Warren said softly, his voice gentle. Yes, it's me, Warren, Ido's twin brother. Come in. Kamal stepped inside, his head spinning. It was déjà vu all over again, but this time, there was a strange sense of clarity mixed with the shock. Warren looked at him with an honest, direct gaze. He told you about the swap, didn't he? Warren asked. Kamal nodded, barely able to speak. Everything, the dates, the parties, was it all a lie? Warren sighed, a genuine sigh. Not entirely. The dates were real, Kamal. Our conversations were real, and what I felt for you, the friendship we built, that was real too. I mean, you're not a bad guy, when you're not busy destroying my brother's life. A small, wry smile played on his lips. And for what it's worth, I actually like you, Kamal. A lot, even knowing everything. Kamal looked at him, truly looked at him, for the first time. Not as the coveted Ido, but as Warren, a man who saw him, flaws and all, and still expressed a liking. A strange, unfamiliar warmth spread through Kamal's chest, cutting through the icy shock of betrayal. You like me, Kamal repeated, trying to make sense of the absurdity. Warren nodded, a genuine, open smile now lighting his face. Yes, Kamal, I do, and if you're willing to move past the initial deception, and everything else, I'd like to see where this goes. With you, the real you. Kamal stared at Warren, then a slow, hesitant smile began to form on his own face. The elaborate scheme, designed to inflict pain, had somehow, inadvertently, led him to something real. He had pursued a phantom, and found a genuine connection in the process. Chapter 7. A New Beginning. The aftermath was a whirlwind of emotions, confessions, and surprisingly, new beginnings. Kamal and Warren sat for hours, talking. Warren explained his initial reluctance, his bond with Ido, and how, against his better judgment, he had found himself drawn to Kamal's charismatic, if flawed, persona. Kamal, humbled and stripped bare of his manipulative facade, confessed his deep-seated loneliness, his desperate desire for a partner he truly felt connected to, and the twisted path that had led him to believe that partner had to be Ido. He even admitted to the confusing rush of bisexuality he discovered, further solidified by his genuine connection with Warren. I tried to break him, Kamal admitted, his voice raw. But all I did was break myself, and everyone around me. Warren reached across the table, taking Kamal's hand. Maybe this is a chance to fix things, Kamal. To build something honest, with me. Answer, a new, unexpected relationship began to unfold. Kamal, for the first time in his life, felt truly seen, truly desired for who he was, not for his wealth or his perceived ability to control. Warren, in turn, found a partner who, despite his dark past, was willing to be vulnerable and open with him, exploring a depth of connection he hadn't anticipated. Meanwhile, Ido and Kerry found a peculiar solace in each other. Their bond, forged in mutual betrayal and a shared desire for retribution, had blossomed into something surprisingly tender. They understood each other's pain, having both been collateral damage in Kamal's warped game. Kerry found Ido's groundedness a refreshing contrast to Kamal's grandiosity. Ido found in Kerry a fierce intelligence and a surprising warmth beneath her sophisticated exterior. They started cautiously, two wounded souls finding unexpected healing in each other's company. Ido divorced Efe officially, though the split had occurred long ago, and Kerry initiated divorce proceedings against Kamal. It was messy, but liberating. The world might have reeled at the bizarre entanglement, but for Idoo, Kerry, Kamal, and Warren, it simply was. They had all been forced down paths they never imagined, led there by a web of deceit and desire. But from the ashes of betrayal, something new, something strangely beautiful, had emerged. Kamal and Warren, despite the unconventional start, built a strong, loving relationship. They moved into a new, smaller, but still luxurious home, a symbol of Kamal's desire to shed some of his old opulence and focus on what truly mattered. They continued to explore the gay community together, finding joy and acceptance. Idoo and Kerry found their own quiet happiness. They started small, building a life together based on trust and shared understanding. Idoo, finally free from Kamal's shadow, rebuilt his career, with Kerry's quiet support. It was an ending no one could have predicted. The men who had been rivals, the women who had been pawns, had all found their own version of peace. Answer, in the strangest twist of fate, Idoo and Kerry became partners, finding a genuine, gentle love. And Kamal and Warren, against all odds, became partners, discovering a deep, unexpected connection. They all lived, remarkably, happily. The intricate dance of, your wife or me, had ended, not in tragedy, but in a peculiar, intertwined tapestry of love, forgiveness, and new beginnings. The end. Story by Kayode Ike.